Thank you for joining me in this 20-minute session about unlocking synergy between Power BI and PowerApps. My name is Sascha Götz. I'm a senior data engineer working for Scienius in Germany. I'm focused on building modern data warehouse architectures, Power BI, Synapse, all that good stuff. No Fabric today, I'm sorry. But I think you've had enough Fabric in other sessions, so today I want to show you something which I think is a very neat feature, and that is the interaction between Power BI and PowerApps. And what you see here is a sneak preview of what we want to achieve in the next 20 minutes. So I will show you how to get there. So what do we see here? We see a Power BI dashboard, which on the left-hand side shows a visual. In that case, it's a custom visual, but that doesn't really matter. It works with all standard visuals as well. And what you can do is you can, on the first hand, select an item in the visual, so cross-filtering works through PowerApp. And then on the right-hand side, you can see an implemented PowerApp within the dashboard, which is able to modify data on the fly. And after modification, you can see on the left-hand side in the Power BI visual, the visual gets updated immediately. There is no real refresh progress. There is only a visual refresh, that's what's taking place, yes, but there is no data refresh in the background. Therefore, anything changed in the Power App will directly change your dashboard. Okay, that's what we want to achieve. And there are a few steps you need to do. A few steps you need to make sure you need to look at your model, do some things, and I will go through all of those things. So end of the session, you hopefully will be able to implement that on your own dashboards. So first of all, let's create a flight plan. What are the steps you need to do? So you typically already have a Power BI dashboard and a data set or semantic model, now we are supposed to call it. And I'm guessing that you have that in import mode. For that specific feature to work, you would need a mixed model in Power BI. And the table you want to change, you want to update, needs to be in direct query. That means you have your standard report and all your model in the import mode, and you may add another table to that structure and have that in direct query mode. Why is that? Well, because after updating the value, you want to have that immediately in Power BI, therefore it needs to be in direct query mode. Typically, this wouldn't be a large table, so I don't think it's a performance problem in the end. All right, so add another table, the one you need to add that to your model in direct query mode. Next thing you need to do is you need to create your Power App from within Power BI Desktop. That is very, very important. Who of you have already worked with Power Apps in generally? Okay, see some hands, great. So in Power Apps you have two choices. You can build a canvas app or a model-driven app. The only thing that works here is a canvas app. And typically when you would build a Power App, you would go to the Power Apps portal and create a new app from there. That's not going to work if you want to implement that in Power BI, at least not in a way that it will automatically refresh all the visuals. Because for that to happen, you need to have the so-called Power BI integration. The Power BI integration is a thing which exists in a Power App and that only gets added if you create the Power App from within Power BI Desktop. If you create the Power App directly in the Power Apps portal, you will not have the Power BI integration, and therefore you will not be able to trigger the Power BI integration .refresh command, which will then refresh all the visuals in your dashboard. However, one thing, this specific refresh command, it only works when your Power BI is deployed to the servers. So if you have that in Power BI Desktop working on it, the Power BI integration .refresh doesn't do anything. But as soon as you deploy it to the servers, it will work. So it's a kind of bit of confusing because you think it's not working, but as soon as you deploy it, you will see it's working. So these are the things we need to consider. First things first, prepare your data model. then create the app from within Power BI. Then you only need to do a very small modification in the actual Power App that is automatically generated. I'll show you how to do that. I'll show you how to update a record in a SQL database and then trigger the Power BI integration. So let's look at our data model. I have a very simple one. Your actual data model doesn't really matter so far. What I have is I have 3 tables on the left-hand side. You can see they are imported. You can see that because they are don't have the blue box around them. So my imported is just standard sales data. And what I have is I have another table on the right-hand side, the sales target table. And that is the table I do want to modify. And that table would contain a sales target for a specific product category. And you can see I also have a measure on that table, the percentage reached to display what's my percentage reach compared to actual sales to target sales. Now there's one important thing. Your target table, or the table you want to edit, needs to have a primary key, a real primary key in the SQL database. If you don't have a primary key, it will not update the record. It's just a limitation in PowerApps itself. You need to have a primary key on a table, otherwise it will say there is no primary key, I'm not going to update. So it's just a limitation in PowerApps. So make sure you have just a standard primary key with auto increment, and that should be good. So once you have that, we are ready to start. What you will do is you open your dashboard or your model in Power BI Desktop, and then there is a PowerApps visual. It's a standard visual. It's always been there. You've probably seen it before. You will add that visual to your canvas, and then it's also a bit confusing. What you need to do is you need to drag the fields which you want to display within the app to the actual fields of the visual. Like if it would be a table or table visual or matrix visual or any other visual, you need to drag and drop the fields onto the PowerApps data slots. So once you did that, and only once you did that, you get the option on the bottom side to create a new app. If you don't have any fields in the visual, this is grayed out and you can't click it. So first thing first, you drag the fields you want to show and edit, and you click Create New. That will then open a session in your web browser. So it will go to the PowerApps portal and create a brand new app from scratch. And it will automatically present you something which looks like this. So you can see it already will create a, so this is the general environment or the general IDE on how you develop a PowerApps application. On the left-hand side, you have the tree view where you can see all the objects like specific screens and galleries, where galleries are just iterators of records. And then within a gallery, you can have certain objects that repeat for each record. And that is what you get out of the box. So this is just after clicking Create App, you get something like this. Okay, so you get a list of records, and you also get that right arrow, which doesn't have any functionality, but you can add a functionality to it. And from the look and feel, it's like that. You can click a specific object within the app, and then on the top left, where it says fill right now, you have a drop down of attributes. So you can modify the attribute of a specific object. Like fill is like the color, but you can also like have something like on change. So you can modify the on change event, you can modify the on click event, you can modify the on update event, and so on. So you'd always select one of those objects on the page, and then on the top left select the attribute you want to add it, and then on the right, next to the attribute drop down, you can see something which looks like a DAX. Like in Power BI, like when you enter the DAX code. This is not DAX. This is another expression language just for PowerApps, of course. We need another language. So it's something completely brand new. Never seen it. I personally have never seen it before in anything else. So it's an expression language you will need to learn. but for that specific scenario, it's a very simple 3-liner, which should be good to go. So what do you need to do? Check that first. You need to have the Power BI integration. On the left-hand side, there needs to be a little entry which says Power BI integration. And that is what you not have if you create the Power App through the PowerApps portal. Then this doesn't exist. So what does the Power BI integration do? The Power BI integration, on one hand, makes it possible to transfer the data from Power BI to the Power App. That's what happened. On the other hand, it gives you the Power BI visual refresh function. So from any point within the Power App, you can trigger the visual refresh. That's the two key main features that it gives you. However, what it does not give you is the possibility to update the data. Okay? It's only read-only. So for that, you need something else. Yeah, okay, that was a step too fast. So what you see, if you select the gallery 1 and then select the items property, you can see that that is already there. You can see that the items of the gallery is the Power BI integration .data. So that is actually repeating the data which is like has been transferred from Power BI to PowerApps. So what you do now is you remove the little arrow that doesn't do anything for us, and we want to add another text input. A text input is like a box where you can just modify a value, and you will add that text input to the gallery, so the text input repeats for each record, and then you will set the value or the default attribute of that text input to this item, where this item means it's the actual iterator within the gallery, dot target sales, where target sales is the field. You actually have it named in Power BI. So the field you drag and drop down to the visual, that is the field names which appear here. So in that case, that is target sales for me. So that first of all shows you all the data, and then next thing is, okay, now it's a bit mixed around. Now we want to update the data, and as I said, it's not possible to update data through the Power BI integration. Therefore, what you would do is you go to the Data tab in PowerApps and create a new connection to the SQL database, to the exact same SQL database, to the exact same table. So this is kind of a duplicate connection in that mind. And with this connection, you can actually update data. Okay, so any update to any existing record or inserting new records or also deleting records is possible through this direct connection within PowerApps. And now this is where the magic happens. This is the most amount of code we're going to see today, at least in my session. You get this 3 lines, it's actually 4 lines, but it's 3 commands. Let's go through them very quick. The first one is the patch command, and that is where actually the update is taking place. So what we do is we select the text input and change the onChange attribute to do something for us. So as soon as someone changes a value in one of those boxes, all those events will be fired. And the first one is the actual update. It's a patch. So the patch has 3 parameters. First parameter is the target. What do we want to patch? Which table do we want to patch? And that is just sales target. That's the name of my table. And then we need to tell patch what items do I want to which records do I want to update within the table? So that is a little bit of a subcommand. So all that in red is like you get the table, first filter sales target, and then product category equals this item dot product category ID. So I'm kind of using the iterator's product category ID to find the right primary key. And then the third parameter is what do I want to update? And you can update multiple fields at a time, but in that case, I just have one field, and that is target sales. And I want to update the target sales with the value of my text input 1. Text input 1 point text is the value command converts it to a number in that case, and that will do the actual patch. So that will update the record in the database, and then what I do is two refresh. First refresh is the Power App internal refresh, so the screen gets actually refreshed. And then the second refresh is I fire a Power BI integration refresh, so it will refresh the visuals on Power BI service. Okay, so what does it do? Updates the record, refreshes the page, and everything gets updated. So this is then how it looks. You click and you can see the interactive filtering here. You can even click a specific category or specific item on Power BI, and that cross-filtering will populate through to Power Apps. So it's a neat feature. And then once you update the value, you can actually see how that is happening. So let's praise to the demo gods that it's actually working. We are following the demo balloon and see if that is doing something. So here we go. This is my little application. Here's my little database. I have a query here which says, for example, the bike racks have a target sales of 700. And let's try to update that. Therefore, I click on my application. I go to bike racks. You can see here, target sales 700. I click on it. And that will hopefully populate. Well, great. Just reload. That seems like a connectivity problem, to be honest. It's good that I tried that just 2 minutes before this session, of course. There you go. Just needed a refresh, of course. So I will select bike racks, and then I update that value to, let's say, 500. And now it hasn't changed. The event hasn't fired yet because I haven't left the field with my mouse, actually. But as soon as I click somewhere else, now you can see, if you look very closely on the top left, you can see the round loading on the refresh visuals. Let me do that again. I'll type in 400. And then look at bike racks on the top left. You can see that here. That was the Power BI refresh. It's actually the same thing as you would click this button on the top right. It's the exact same thing. So let's check. So we change it to 400 now. And I will run that query again. And you can see now target sales 400. All right, and that's basically it. With that combination, you can manipulate whatever data in any SQL database. So this is just a very basic example, but basically it's adaptable to kind of a lot of situations. And with that being said, I'm done with my presentations and open for questions, if any. Yes, please. So the question is, if you have a slicer for a specific year, would that populate to the Power Apps? Yes, you would be able to design it like that, yes. Yeah. The question is, do I need to be contributor owner of the Power BI workspace? So kind of a security question. What you need to do is you will actually need to share the Power App to the users who will be able to use it. Okay, so it's kind of an additional security concept on top of it, Power Apps. So if you don't have the access right to view or to use the Power App, you actually won't be able to use it in Power BI. Okay. Yep. All right. So I'm not a licensing expert. Usually, if you use Power Apps in combination with SQL Server, that requires a premium license. Yeah, it's a premium connector. That's true. I have heard that in that specific circumstance, it doesn't require a premium license. If you use it if you use it within Power BI, that's covered by the Power BI license. That's what I've read somewhere. Yeah, we have a question online. Any business? The question is any business scenarios of when to use this. I don't know. I showed you the technical solution. We very often get requests from customers to be able to modify data within the dashboard by hand, like sales targets or something like that. So it's very common for us. So you need to think about your own scenarios. I don't know. Yes, please. You can change that when you on the create. Before you click the create app button, you have the possibility to select the environment where it gets created. You can pack that into a solution later on, yes. Yeah. So in PowerApps, you have the solution, you can add the existing app to the solution and then roll it out to other environments, yes. All right, thanks a lot.